something that I was, thinking about in prep for this is most people, their reaction, if they're not using a cash flow report, when you say if they're struggling to make payments, typically it becomes a procrastination thing where they don't want to look at the cash flow report because it's going to mean bad news and that produces fear and anxiety in them. And so that they just don't think about it, then they're fine. And the way that they cover for that anxiety is that they go and they sell another job and they use that cash deposit from the next job to put their cash position in a better position for the mentally, right? Theoretically, right? But the reality is look at the cash flow report because that's going to give you the honest answer, whether you collected a deposit or not, right? And we've talked about the vicious cycle all the time where if you're taking cash from one job to pay so that you can complete the job that you had before, you're running a legal Ponzi scheme, essentially, right?
Right.
And that's a vicious cycle, right? Just like Bernie Madoff did his Ponzi scheme and was giving returns to people from other people's deposits or investments, whatever you want to call it, all you're doing is growing a problem because it might start with something small. Maybe it's, yeah, I'm floating $5,000 from this job to pay for the one that I need to finish up, right? But it only creates a problem where it grows and grows and grows, and soon 5,000 is 50,000. Soon 50,000 is 200,000, and then you're lost, right? So that's a big thing that I would say is if you're not looking at a cash flow report, it's typically because you're one, don't have good books, but two, you're also kind of ignoring it and trying to like procrastinate it. But if you can get in this rhythm, it gives you a much better reality check of where you stand.
Yeah. Yeah. If you want to stick your head in the sand, uh, things are not going to go well.
Yeah.
You have to look. And one of the things that a cash flow report does is, as we said, if you're constantly struggling, you
Hmm.
need to know why. And you don't wind up in the contractor Ponzi scheme. Well, you can do it without. It's usually because you're losing money and you don't know it. Um, Sometimes it's because people took draws and things. So the one good thing about having a cash flow report is it alerts you that, hey, this is not good, or maybe it is very good, but if
Yeah.
it's not good, I have to do something about it.
Right.
And we've talked about it before. If you have to go over and look and see if you're profitable. If you're not profitable, you have to get profitable. And even though cash is probably the most important thing in business, I have several most important things. The first priority is you have to be profitable. You have
Hmm.
to be selling things for more than they cost you. Otherwise, you're toast. I mean, it's going to kill you quickly or kill you slowly, but you
Hmm.
must be profitable and you have to know that. That requires you to go over and look at the profit and loss statement. Uh, and that again requires good books, and that's a different topic. But if
Yeah.
you go over there and you're profitable and you're still not getting anywhere with your cash, we've talked about it before, but there are only four possible reasons. So you're profitable, but you don't have cash. There are only four reasons. And one of them is you haven't been paid yet, which we've talked about. In other words, you made a profit, got a nice profit, but you have large accounts receivable. So you're showing a profit, but you don't have the cash because you haven't been paid. Second reason is I use the cash. I already spent it buying assets in construction and home building and so on. It's buying assets is buying loaders, equipment,
Yeah.
inventory.
Inventory.
If you have to buy the inventory of parts that you're putting into an electrical job, but those are assets. They're not expenses until you charge a customer, but they're not. You've used your cash because it's gone, right?
Hmm.
The third thing, so you haven't been paid yet, receivables. You already spent it buying assets. Third one is that you've already spent it paying off debt. So you make profit, but you have debt payments from previous loans that you've taken out.
Hmm.
You take your cash and pay that off. That's not an expense. It's a loan repayment, but it consumes your cash. Then the fourth one is you took it. So you haven't been paid yet. You already spent it buying assets, already spent it paying off debt, only already spent it by taking it out as a draw, which is
Hmm.
not an expense. So if you're having trouble with cash and you are making money, seek first to find out if you're making money. If you're having trouble with cash, you have to look at those four areas. You have to increase the speed with which you collect your receivables. You have to do a better job of managing your inventory. You have to do a better job of paying off debt. And there are things you can do to pay off debt. And you need to do a better job of managing your draws, like maybe don't take as many.
Yeah.
So it's great because it warns you that you need to start looking, and then those are the places that you start looking.
Yeah. And would you agree that, I mean, and you see everything, and all four of those options happen all the time, but especially for the business owner, you see a lot of draws and they don't happen necessarily in the way that they think. It's not like, yeah, you just transferred the money to your bank account, but it comes in the form of, hey, yeah, you went to the Sonic drive-through for breakfast, lunch, and dinner every single day. you know,
Right.
um, those are meals, but you should be paying for your own meals out of your personal account, not your business account, right? Owner
Right.
discretionary spending, right? That's where a lot of the draws are going, and so there's a lot of ways to kind of tidy some of that stuff up so that you maintain the cash in your business. Let's talk about some of these specific decisions. So purchasing inventory is a big one, right? If you're looking at your weekly cash flow report, right, you know exactly what's coming in, what's going out, you know where your cash position is. How is that going to help you make better decisions around your inventory turns?
Well, being aware is what makes you better decisions around inventory turns. Um, Inventory turns are your cost of goods sold divided by your average inventory for a year, right? So if your cost of goods sold for parts and materials is $1 million and you have a $500,000 inventory on hand at all times throughout a year, you're turning your inventory twice.
Right,
Okay. If you can manage your inventory so that you turn your inventory 4 times, in other words, you still do the $1 million worth of cost of goods sold, but you typically only have $250,000 on hand, you have freed up $250,000 of cash that was tied up in inventory. And
right,
yes, it really works that way. You say, well, I need the parts. Well, I'm thinking of my electrical friends. How many of you bought a bunch of fittings and specialty lighting fixtures and things? Some of those, not specialty, but conventional, but special for the job you're on, lighting fixtures, and you wind up with a lot of things left in the back of your truck. Take them back to the supplier,
yeah,
right? I mean, that's just a truckload, but you'd be surprised. uh, You take it back to the supplier and get your credit back for it, as opposed to putting it in your shop and driving over it with a forklift, right? Or forgetting that you have it and go buy another box of GFCIs, right?
right.
That costs a lot of money, right? Um, so being aware that manage your inventory, it's that $250,000 that I mentioned is not, that's real. That's a common number. That's not some big guy. Some of you laugh at that
Well,
as being
and
so
it's not
small.
just a common number. It's a, oh, I don't have that much inventory number. you know
Yeah. And you go out there and count, whoa, you've
exactly.
got all the overages for the last 2 years sitting out in your shop,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
easy
absolutely.
get 150,000.
So, and that's
So
to be clear, like that's just an operations thing as well. Like it changes the way that you operate your business. Hey guys, stop running to the supplier to grab extra stuff. You have to check in our shop first. It allows you to set up. It goes now. We're setting up inventory management software. Now we're doing consignment through our warehouse, where the supplier
right.
sets up a consignment store, and when we pull it out of the gate, it counts
Yeah.
towards our inventory. So effectively, we're doing inventory turns every day. We only have like current this day. That's what our inventory turn is. Uh,
Yep, and there are even companies I've met recently that, I mean, lots of different ways to do it if you intend to do it, but they know what's going to happen tomorrow on the job, and they have the supplier carry the inventory and the trucks go pick it up by name, by the guy picking it up and by the job, just what they're gonna use every
yep.
day. So the supplier has the inventory right up until they go pick it up. Not totally sold on that because the guys have got to go to the supply house every day,
And
but
yeah, it
better than
adds
having
time, all that kind of
half a
stuff.
million dollars of inventory in your shop.
Well, I mean, there's
So,
this suppliers that'll go to your truck. They'll come to your warehouse. They'll put everything on
yeah,
the truck, and when you pull it off the truck, it scans, and that's when you pay for it.
right.
So
Yeah, and that's a place to get. down the road, and I have a lot of people who are doing that.
Yeah.
Suppliers love it because they get all your business. You love it, but you have to be a disciplined partner. You and your supplier have to be partners at that point.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, to answer your original question, what's the good of managing that? If you see your inventory turns,
Mhm.
if you know that number, and whoever gives you this report can calculate that number and give it to you,
Mhm.
right? If you know that number and you say, what? I'm turning it once a year, which means you have a whole year's worth of cost of goods sold sitting on your shelf, or twice or three times a year, I can do better. Set a goal and do it, and the money will just show up, right? If you measure it, you can manage it. And measured things seem to get better just because you're measuring them.
Yeah.
That's Drucker, one of those guys, right?